Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com. I have some reviews to do from comics, a selection of comics from the first couple weeks of October, plus one from the end of September. And that one is Super! Exclamation point. This is issue number 1 from Unlikely Heroes Studios, $2.99 for a 52-page comic. I believe this was a Kickstarter event, and you can see here there are a lot of names in the inside front cover here in order to thank the people who contributed to the campaign. Let's see, this is by Zachary Dolan, who did pencils, inks, and writing. Everardo Roscoe did the colors. Justin Piet did writing and lettering. Tara Capel, inks assist and pencils assist, with Estela Yanez, color assists. Super was created by Zachary Dolan and Justin Piet. Yeah, okay, so I saw this in previews and decided to try it out. It's a new superhero universe, and I like the cover image featuring what is to be known as the character called Blitz. The story here is told primarily from her point of view, more or less. As I said, Blitz is the main character of the narrative for this first issue. We get introduced to her fighting a giant intelligent robot. It's not the first time that they've run into each other. It actually reminded me quite a bit of the plot from Molly Danger, if you've read that original graphic novel that just came out by Jamal Igle, which is really good. I'll be talking about it at some point, I'm sure. Anyway, then you get introduced to the Furious Fire Ant, which is kind of like a Spider-Man character. You know, he's got the quips. And anyway, Blitz appears to be fast, strong, and extra durable. And then she finds out, so the fight gets over with, Fire Ant tells her what time it is, she freaks out, she zips home, changes back into her secret identity, which interestingly, you can see on the front cover she's blonde, but then when she gets home she's dark-haired, so you kind of got a Captain Marvel type transformation going on here, except, you know, without the whole young kid, older person thing. Anyway, her boyfriend gets home, and then we have a few pages of Blitz and her secret identity going to work, and she encounters, well, she sees the aftermath of a superhero fight, goes to work, deals with some jackasses, gets fired, or almost gets fired by her boss. You know, so you get the whole mundane aspect of the secret identity. And then there's this bar, and there's a bunch of people, so it's a superhero costume adventure, whatever you want to call it, bar. And they're all hanging out there, and you got a Wolverine-like clone, you've got a Flash guy, you've got a Thor clone, and I'm going mostly by things that they've said or the way that they look, not necessarily that they exhibit either the personality or the powers of these characters, just the way they look. Okay, going on. They get their supergroup signal, and they all race off to do this. The Streak. So this guy in a basically a tracksuit, and why they call him the Streak? Well, you can kind of guess. He pulls off the suit, and with all these snaps. So, you know, is he a superhero or a stripper? Anyway, he's super fast, but he runs nude. Okay, so I think you can kind of see where, you know, what level of humor we're dealing with on this. Then there's a strange one-page, I'm sure it will continue on in a future issue, but there's this one page where the bartender's had enough of the superhero shenanigans, kicks everybody out, and then this mime shows up, which is really cute. Mime shows up and then basically demands all the guy's money, and, you know, oh, that's cute, whatever, and then her cane has a knife and threatens the guy. Anyway, so Blitz is going home or on her way to the supergroup. Congar the uncontainable. You know, how do you sell comics? Well, you put intelligent gorillas on there in them, or on the cover, so you get Congar there. But then you get she's about ready to go into action, but then you get the Superman clone, whose name is Superstar. He takes care of Congar, which there actually was a cute line in here. And something I haven't mentioned so far is, like I said, well, I guess I did, but a bit of the humor that's in this book. It's a bit juvenile for my taste, but there's some funny parts. This is one of them. So Superstar is battling Congar, and he's got him. He's lifted him up, and he's kind of got him up in his arms like this, holding him. And Congar yells out, "Congar does not bend that way," which I thought that was pretty funny. Then we get to a few more characters. There's a Batman-like character. Actually, it reminded me more of the character. What's his name? The Saint? No. The Astro City character, whose name I've totally blanked on. But anyway, a Batman-like character. Oh yeah, the supergroup gets together. The leader of the group tells them that they got to go after Congar, the Uncontainable, and then Blitz tells them, "Oh, Superstar already beat you to it." But then something else comes up. There is a casino, it looks like, who gets hit by the Fearsome Fivesome, led by Black Atom, not Adam, Atom. He's kind of dressed in a nuclear hazmat type suit. Anyway, the fight ensues between the Fearsome Fivesome, which, God, say that 5 times fast. So many more pages of fight. Blitz and Black Atom do most of their fighting together. And then, so there was one character here who was in the bar. He was drinking milk, and he was made fun of by the Wolverine-like guy. And the reason is that when he drinks alcohol, he hulks out. Only he doesn't get big and bulky. He just goes crazy, enraged, and is super strong, and wipes the map with some of these bad guys here after he takes a swig of tequila. The fight continues, blah, 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 blah. Blitz knocks Black Adam up into the sky. The bad guys leave, and Blitz goes home. So then the last page, this ends with, and spoilers, I forgot to mention, spoilers there may be in this review, and here's one of them. Black Adam is shown flying through the city. He gets to this building, goes in through the window, and someone's at the door, and oh, guess who gets home? Just as Black Adam changes out of his outfit. It's Blitz in her secret identity. What? Okay. I was really hopeful for this. I probably won't continue with this very much longer, mostly because a few things. One, like I said, I mentioned before, I don't care for the humor that much. It's a little too juvenile for me. It's a little bit too much of, I don't know, high school humor-like. Sometimes it's a little too, the jokes are a little too comic booky for me. The lettering, and I don't mean to disparage the people involved, I really don't, but the lettering just doesn't look as professional as what I'm used to seeing in professional comics. The art, I think, is pretty good considering it's a couple guys and people assisting, but for basically 2 people who created this and had a bunch of other folks help out with it, and forming Unlikely Hero Studios, they've done a pretty good job coming out with the first issue, and they did it. It's $2.99 for 52 pages. Now, obviously, issue 2 probably won't be that, but I liked it to a point, but it just wasn't quite up to par for me. Now, that's not to say that it won't develop, as it goes on, kind of like a TV show, and I've used this analogy before, kind of like a TV show pilot, and how the subsequent shows develop into something better. Okay, so there's that. Next up is Earth 2, number 16, James Robinson, Nicholas Scott, Trevor Scott. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this because of the spoiler in it. So there you go. So we've had this character Steppenwolf, who's from, he's part of Darkseid's pack. He's been stuck on Earth 2 after Darkseid and his forces were driven from Earth 2. Anyway, so Steppenwolf has taken over this country. There's been this conflict that's been coming between Earth's military forces and Steppenwolf. And, of course, the Earth 2 heroes have been working their way essentially towards this. Green Lantern and the Atom and Dr. Fate and Flash, the Sandmen. Is that Red Arrow? I think Red Arrow's in this. Anyway, the guy, he's shooting arrows and he's got red highlights in his costume. I think it was supposed to be Red Arrow in here. The problem with it is that with Steppenwolf, and he's got a few superpowered lackeys. One of them is named, I believe it's pronounced Brutal, but it's spelled Brutaal. So I always want to say it's Brutal. That's just how, in my mind, that sounds Brutal. It sounds kind of different than Brutal. Anyway, so Brutal's there, and he's really powerful. And then let's see here. There's a point where, Brutal and Steppenwolf have basically defeated everybody. And Steppenwolf, there's a camera there. Steppenwolf goes up to it and says, basically, Earth is mine. Now with the gateway to my past clothes, I do so today for myself. Okay. I am Steppenwolf, your master. Prepare for my coming now that the fighting is over. Obey me and live. Resist and die. And furthermore, and then you get this big old splash page of Brutal zapping. Look at that. It's brutal. Zapping Steppenwolf in. Oh, and chopping him right down the middle with. So, rendering him in two. And then Brutal, I don't know. Brutal starts talking. He calls himself a god. He calls us his dogs. We are not pets to be trained. We have one aim, the conquest of Earth. Steppenwolf foolishly fought for himself. Let me make my intentions clear. And then you get yet another splash page. And here's the big surprise, folks. Superman Earth 2. Hail Darkseid. Was Brutal all this time. Okay, so wow, Superman here, the bad guy. Although I have to undercut this by we've seen this before. Those of us who watched the Superman the animated series, they're basically the same kind of plot going on in that, where Superman was brainwashed by Darkseid and helped Darkseid to defeat the Earth before Superman. Anyway, Superman got out of it. There's a long-running plot that started there and ended in Justice League Unlimited with Superman kicking Darkseid's ass. But it always referred back to those episodes in Superman the animated series. Anyway, so I've seen this plot before. Well, how many times haven't we seen a plot like this before? Anyway, but directly involving Darkseid and Superman. So Superman supposedly died in that, as we were shown in that first issue of Earth 2, and here we are now 15 issues, 16 issues if you count zero issue. Anyway, later, and Superman is now brainwashed and taking on the role of Brutal. So what happened? Obviously, I want to know. I want to find out how that works. And then, of course, more importantly, what does this mean going forward? So not only do we have Superman back in Earth 2, on Earth 2, we also have a new Batman. So are they going to bring back Wonder Woman some way, or is that supposed to be Fury? So the Trinity is more or less back, the Trinity of Earth 2. So that's an interesting development. I believe James Robinson, either this is his last issue or the next one, I can't remember what his exact last issue is. So I would have really liked to have seen where he was going with this, but I understand that the new writer is going to carry on some of the ideas, at least, that Robinson was heading towards. So I'm really interested to see where this goes. Next up, The Witching Hour from DC Comics. I will not name every creator involved in this because there's a lot. $8 for, gosh, how many? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 stories in this. Most of which were really good. I was really surprised. These quarterly, I don't know. Anyway, these one shots that DC have been putting out, The Witching Hour. I don't remember the other ones. But they've been really good for the most part. And this one in particular, let's show this great Jenny Frison cover. White-haired woman, that pale white-haired woman with the crows or ravens or whatever those are. I'm gonna say ravens. Let's see here. So you have a few ghost stories, or you have literally involving ghosts, or specters of the past. I'll say coming back to haunt you. Let's see here. There's a dead boy. Oh, the running storyline in these one-shots featuring the Dead Boy Detectives, that comes to a conclusion just in time for the Dead Boy Detectives ongoing series that comes out very soon. I won't say when, because I don't remember. There's one story at the end called Rise by Mariah Huner and Tula Lotay that really could be an ongoing series. From Vertigo, from the way that it was set up and just the storyline. So this girl is out. She's just, doing what a lot of young people do. They go to Europe and hike through Europe. Anyway, she finds this one spot, and basically this ghost attacks her and basically takes over her body. And there's this, the ghost tries to destroy the town. A little bit Rachel Rising going on there, for the sins of the people that used to live in the town. Anyway, the girl fights her, is able to eject her from her body, but then stumbles and falls and dies. But then her ghost lives on. She's like, now what? And the ghost tells her, we wait. And she says, super. What a bleeping trip. So, great setup. I would like to see more of this. Let's see, I mentioned the Dead Boy Detectives. That was okay. There's this one story that I honestly couldn't quite figure out. It's like this army guy is being haunted by this girl he found in, I can't remember if it was Afghanistan or Kuwait, it was Afghanistan. But then there's some doubt about whether or not the girl was real, and so it was really kind of interesting. There's this great little tongue-in-cheek story by Matthew Sturgis and Sean McManus, set in 1953, and featuring. It takes the Salem witchcraft trials. Let's see, The Crucible. That's what I'm trying to think of. The play The Crucible was written set in the Salem witch trial times, but it was an allegory for what was going on during the McCarthy hearings in the 1950s. And so this kind of plays with that storyline. You get Artie, who is the writer, and Norma Jean, who's a witch in this story. So you get the comic book parallels of those real characters, which I thought was really interesting. There's another story about involving a black widow. It was okay. It was drawn lovely by Ming Doyle, but the story by Kelly Sue DeConnick, it was just too Twilight Zone-ish for my taste. The Twilight Zone type ending. I mean, it was a good setup, but then it just kind of fell flat. I guess I am talking about I wasn't going to talk about all these, but I guess I am. There was this one story that was by Annie Mock and Emily Carroll. This witch's work. So that's really more about being haunted by things in your past, which was involving abuse. Pretty powerful story, though. And there's a story about these three little girls who playing witches, but then they get possessed by the spirits of witches, I think it was. Anyway, they have a message from the beyond. This older gentleman who lives nearby, he was involved with the guy when he was younger, but they couldn't be together publicly, earlier on because how taboo it was then. So he's able to kind of get past that guilt and move on because of this. That was a cute little story. And then you got this futuristic. And then here's the next two. The two futuristic stories. This one's set in South Africa in the year 2020, and this girl who can basically she's a medium, and she gets kidnapped by some gangsters and causes them to basically fight each other because of something that's happened. Anyway, it was okay. It was just your kind of typical medium story. But the best story of the whole thing, Mission to Mars, I believe it's called. Oh no, sorry, Mars to Stay. So this is by writer Brett Lewis. Cliff Chang doing the art, which was a huge draw, but it's set in the future. I don't remember if they actually say when. No, it's somewhere in the near future. Anyway, so people actually get sent to Mars, but it's essentially a one-way trip. One of the neat things about it is that everybody's wearing all these sponsorships on their clothing and their spacesuits and everything, because that was the only way that we could get people to Mars. Is if these. I don't think any of these are actual. No, they're not. I don't recognize any of these names. Actual sponsors or actual companies, but it wasn't enough for the government or governments to foot the bill. You had to supplement it by these sponsorships, and then they do this kind of like this Big Brother type thing where everything's televised, and they're kind of waiting. They're waiting for their relief, the secondary mission to come and relieve them, or at least to help grow the colony and share their workload. But then that doesn't happen because ratings have fallen and nobody's interested. Really what the story is about, though, is how monstrous we are, human beings, to ourselves. So, not literal monsters in this story, but it is a story about monsters. And things go from bad to worse. There's a Japanese contingent, and their whole thing gets collapses in itself, and everybody dies. And there's some talk of sabotage there, and you find out it was actually one of the Americans who did it. One person commits suicide because he came to the conclusion, everybody else is too, to a certain degree, that this is a suicide mission. One guy is trying to get rid of other people. So it was very much, oh man, what was that? I'm thinking of a movie, and it's not coming to me. But there were... hate when I do that. So anyway, he's killing off people to ensure that he and his Eve, who is the main character of the story, survives. He fabricates a gun and then sabotages the fabricator so no one else can make a gun. Goes out and kills the last remaining guy, but then the girl sees what he did, and he's like, it's okay, we're on our own now. And then the next couple panels just shows her with this spade with sharp edges on it. She's ripped a hole in his spacesuit, and he dies, and then she just walks away. And then the end of it, the ending narration is, it would be better if there were science fiction monsters on Mars. People don't need monsters. We always bring our own. Yeah, that was really good. And of course, my spoiler summary did not do it justice, so you should go read it if you haven't. Next up, Batman number 24, continuing Zero Year. Huge issue. I don't know how many pages this is. I didn't look that up. There's a lot of issues in here, but it was $6.99 for this sucker. It's a good thing I get it on a discount, a huge discount. There's just a couple things to say about this. So you get the classic Joker origin where Batman fights him, and when he's the Red Hood and he falls in the vat, that's what happens at the end. No big deal there. What was interesting though was, so this is Batman's big coming out to Gotham here. There's a few things that Greg Capullo, I assume Scott Snyder, has such detailed scripts I've heard, paying homage to. So here's this great page of showing Batman going after some Red Hood guys. It looks very Marshall Rogers-esque to me, the way that this was laid out, and I point that out because what you get is this 2-page splash early on in the issue, showing Batman grabbing one of the Red Hood guys. And that's an homage to Detective Comics number 27, including, and a further homage, Batman is wearing purple gloves, and that's something he used to wear early on in his run. So I thought that was great. I love these little homages. I like the interaction between Bruce and Alfred. It's really relaxed in a way. Usually you're used to reading an Alfred who in slight remarks. That's not what I'm trying to say. His witty remarks, I'll just say that, is always trying to push Bruce to stop doing what he's doing. But here he's a full-on partner with it, helping him out and doing these things. So it's a different take. I enjoy it quite a bit. What else? Oh, that's pretty much it. I just really enjoyed. Oh, I almost forgot. Another great splash page here. A bit Nolan-esque in scope or image. With this big bad. The Blackout is shaped in the form of a bat. Bruce is so melodramatic. I love it. So I just saw these homages in here, and I wonder. I mean, obviously the Detective Comics number 27 cover homage is obvious, but there's other two things. That's just my opinion. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying this new origin story, this new 52 origin story of Batman so far. A new number 1 from Vertigo, Coffin Hill, number 1. This is by Caitlin Kittredge and Anaki Miranda. Is there anybody else involved here? Hold on a second. Where's the... I hate when they don't put the credits page right where I can get to it easily. Or is that it? Oh, here it is, like 10 pages in. As I said, Kittredge and Miranda. Eva De La Cruz is the colorist. Trevor Lanham is the letterer. Dave Johnson did the cover. Okay, that's interesting. I like that cover. With again, I keep saying crows, but I don't know if they're crows or ravens. They look like crows to me. Anyway. Okay, so Coffin Hill. So you get quite a few timelines going on here. There's the now, there's the past, recent past. Anyway, so Eve Hill is the main character. She is a cop. She had a career-making collar featuring a serial killer, and then she gets shot by someone she knows, this Sean guy. It happens in her apartment, so I'm not sure if Sean is her boyfriend or just an acquaintance. Why is he there? He's threatening this other girl that Eve knows and Sean knows, and drugs are involved. And anyway, Sean shoots her. She recuperates in the hospital. Before she's recuperating, of course, they're working on her in surgery, and then you get one page with all of these shards, radiating out from the center of the page, and that is playing the memories of Eve, I'm guessing here. Things that have happened recently, things that happened in the past. So there's a lot of good nuggets contained on this page that I'm hoping and I'm sure they will, come up as we read the series. So I'm really intrigued by all this, just little snippets of stuff. So And then we flash back 10 years earlier to Coffin Hill. I'm sorry, her name is Eve Coffin. Coffin Hill, Massachusetts. And so Eve is a child, a spoiled rich kid, basically. And her parents are throwing this party. She decides, her and her goth friends, I'm just going to say that. I don't know if that's the appropriate term, but her friends decide to do after she makes a fool of herself in front of her friends or her parents' friends, they go out into the woods. She's got this magical tome. They do this seance. You get introduced to this boy who you find out later was in love with Eve. What is his name? I'm not seeing it readily here. Anyway, he's with this other girl. So there's this other girl, I don't remember her name. Mel, Danny, and this guy. Anyway, Eve shows up. They're going to do this black magic thing in a circle, and he leaves in disgust. He wants nothing to do with it. They do the thing. It's then the next morning, I guess. And here's this great. Okay, wait a minute. I should back up. The very first, because I see the way that the art was done, these are very similar in theme, these images. So you get this panel right here on page 1. This has to do with the serial killer that I mentioned before. Look, you can see there this is a great bit of art, especially involving the colors. But it's kind of looks a little bit like it was painted almost. I don't think that's true, but I'm probably an expert photoshopping there going on with the colors, and then you get this beautiful. It's disgusting, but it's beautiful from an art standpoint with these contrasting colors. You get the whiteness of the background, and then you get all this blood just splattered everywhere after this ritual happens, and that's Mel there. There's the character of Mel here. Eve wakes up. All of these looks like rats and snakes and birds are just all dead within this bloody circle, and Mel is there all naked, and she's kind of holding her leg huddled up. Anyway, Eve wakes up and says, "Mel, where's Danny?" Mel says she's with them now. She's gone to the dark things. And then this awesome panel here of Mel just silent, screaming with nothing coming out. Wow, I loved it. This is great. Okay, so now we're back to 2013, and they're looking for someone. And so you find out the guy, his name is Finn. Anyway, he's the police chief now. They're looking for some kid, Andrew. Anyway, so then the issue ends with Eve coming out of the hospital, having survived the gunshot. Basically, I think her police career is over as far as she's concerned. We'll see. There's some allegations by some reporters about her conduct regarding the arrest of the ice fisher, which is the serial killer that she got. Anyway, then she goes home to Coffin Hill, setting up the premise of the story. Now, this was a really good issue. It says extra size issue. Oh, yeah, $2.99. Really good issue from Vertigo. I highly recommend this. This was a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what comes of this. So, a couple more new number ones out in October. This one is by Amy Reeder and Branton Montclair. It's funny. Amy Reeder is first there on the cover, but she's the artist. Branton Montclair is the writer. Amy Reeder is the name. I've never heard of Mr. Montclair. But anyway, Rocket Girl, number 1. And I have to admit, Amy Reeder was partly the reason I decided to get this. I like her artwork to a certain degree. But really was the premise is this young girl who travels back in time to 1986, that was near about the time that I was going to graduate from high school. So I kind of wanted to see how the whole 80s thing fits into this. Interesting. Okay, so 1986 is the past, but then she is from the future, which is 2013. So it's one of those where, when I was a kid, growing up in the late 70s, early 80s, I always thought when we got to the 21st century, we would have flying cars and jetpacks and, science-y stuff. I got none of that. I got the internet. Anyway, so in Rocket Girl, that future that I wanted has come true to some degree. So they do have flying cars, and they have robotic police robots. Kind of remind me a little bit of another movie. Can't think of the name. Anyway, doesn't matter. But the weird thing here is that the police force is made up of teenagers. 2013. From 1986, from a recognizable past, present, whatever, however you want to, past. I lived through 1986. I know what it looked like. What I see here, it looks like 1986, more or less, right? Could be now for all it really matters for what we have seen so far. How do we get to flying cars and police drones and teenage police officers in that span of time? Now, that has something to do with the company, Quantum Mechanics, and the whole reason that she goes back into the past has something to do with this corporation. But it's just a jarring difference in how things look that I'm not sure if I like that or not. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for now to see where it goes. But it's a little too much a little too much suspension of disbelief for me to take. We'll see. Not much really goes on here. She goes in the past. She stops a crime. We're shown that she's very capable, even against adults in the situation. And that's about it. So I'm intrigued. This was not as interesting to me as say Coffin Hill, but willing to give it a shot for a little bit. And then finally, the much aligned Superman Wonder Woman #1 with a great trifold cover, I should say, by Mr. Tony Daniel. And so the middle picture is, of course, Superman and Wonder Woman fighting side to side, more or less. And then off to the right is Wonder Woman's cast of characters, including all the stuff that, God dang it, the writer, Wonder Woman, that comic I love so much from the New 52, it's not coming to me. Anyway, everything has been set up in that title. Man, I'm getting old. I can't remember anything. And then Superman, of course, has his cast of characters. Anyway, like I said, this is by Tony Daniel on art. Charles Soule did the writing. Charles Soule took over for Swamp Thing. That's how I first, discovered him in my reading experience. I don't know what else he's done. I keep meaning to look that up, but I did not continue on with Swamp Thing. But this, I really enjoyed this issue. So it's told in a layered fashion. You get a lot of the past and then or the present and the past, and flipping back and forth between them. It's as a storytelling technique, it's very effective. It helps you get into the moment, but then also pull back to give you the background to how you got to the situation that's set up. But man, a lot of people are using it, I think, way too much now. Way too much. In fact, the last 3 comics that I including this one that I talked about, use that storytelling device very heavily. So, having said that, basically starts off with Superman and Wonder Woman. They were going on a date. Dinner in Oslo is where they were headed. And okay, let me stop there for a second and say, I actually like this idea of these two together. Now, do I prefer a Superman Lois Lane relationship? Yes, but that's just the past talking. That's just my preference talking. I like this. I like this idea. It makes a lot of sense to me. I know a lot of people don't like it. And I've always said, ever since they kind of brought the together that it just depends on how they do it. If they do it well, I think it'll be a great idea. I think it's a great idea already. I think will pay off storytelling-wise, character development-wise. Just depends on what Mr. Sewell does. And so far, I think he's doing a pretty good job. Because you get, mostly I think you get a lot of the story from Wonder Woman's perspective. And this is a Wonder Woman who talks more like she talks and acts more like she acts as she does in her own title. Whereas, and I've said this many times before, she doesn't in the Justice League titles. And she did a little bit more recently with the whole Forever Evil stuff that's going on. But mostly, Wonder Woman in Wonder Woman, the title Wonder Woman, is a completely different character than what we've seen so far. In this, I think it's taking on those really good aspects of Wonder Woman in this depiction of Wonder Woman, and that, big thumbs up for me for that. So they do this, but then there's a storm, and apparently Clark is really good with storms, which Wonder Woman's like, how are you good with storms? What does that even mean? Which I thought that was a nice little touch. Anyway, but then there's a plane in trouble. Wonder Woman goes to take care of it. Superman's investigating the center of the storm and gets attacked by something, and he goes flying. There's this plot where I guess it's a picture on a computer of Superman and Wonder Woman kissing. Someone apparently is downloading these things to a zip drive and mailing it, which ends up on the desk of Cat Grant, who runs this online blog with Clark. So that'll be an interesting development, I assume. Kind of shades of Watchmen, though, the very end of Watchmen, if you know that story, with Rorschach's journal. Then also back to the past, where Diana is sparring with Hesia, and they're talking about her relationship with Clark and how she doesn't like that it's hidden. And Hesia gives her some sage advice. You got to remember how Clark was brought up. To hide things, to protect things. You hide these things from people to protect them. And so that gives her some pause. Anyway, Wonder Woman is saving the plane when Superman goes flying through the plane and breaks it up, and she saves the pilots. She asks Clark to basically take the men to safety because he's a better flyer than her, and he implores her, don't go down don't go down in the ocean, wait for her. And there's an explosion. She plummets into the ocean. Then there's this beautiful scene between the two, between Clark and Diana, when he comes to pick her up. He brings her a flower, something from his fortress that uses cooking oil as nutrition instead of water. That was a nice touch. And he says, it's beautiful and a little bit strange. It made me think of you. And Diana says, oh, Clark, if I wanted smooth, I'd be with Hal Jordan. And she presses him about, not hiding things. He has such wonderful things in the fortress. Why not show people? And he says, I agree with you, but I don't like keeping secrets, but some things you have to. She gets a little peeved, I think. Like us, she says. And he says, like us, but that's both. A secret we have to keep and one I want to keep. We give them everything. This is ours, at least for now. I can understand that. That makes a lot of sense to me, that Clark would want to have whatever is developing between him and Diana to himself. I mean, what relationship haven't you done that with? A new relationship haven't you done that with yourself, right? But I totally understand Diana's side. She's all about truth, right? Lasso of truth. She upholds that ideal, and so this is just counter to her character. So some great conflict here between the two, but I think it works really well. She tells him she has a gift for him. It was made by Hephaestus, and it's a sword. It looks kind of like a Roman short sword. She says it's a staggeringly powerful weapon. just like you, Clark. But it doesn't matter how powerful your weapon is if you can't hit anything with it. You're so strong, Clark, but you've never been trained to fight. Power isn't everything. I, on the other hand, studied under an actual god of war since I was a child. You have, and there's a close-up of her eye on this, you have things to learn, and I'm just the woman to teach you. Maybe a little too much double entendre there, but very true. I mean, your friends, if you're Superman, you're friends with Wonder Woman and Batman, why would you not ask them, or at least learn from them on how to fight? You can't just rely on your powers, as I think Superman does. I think that's a great point. Anyway, the explosion, I didn't mention this before, so the explosion that caused Wonder Woman to plummet into the ocean was caused by, there's a ship and it fired on her. Anyway, then there's this loud sound, and Wonder Woman turns around thinking it's Superman. Superman, that was fast, she's about to say, but no, it's not. 2-page splash. Guess who's back? Creature that killed Superman. I think that's still in continuity in the New 52. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, she goes to fight him, and here's a lovely thing. So we get a couple pages of Diana fighting Doomsday. I almost forgot his name. I actually did forget. It just came to me right now. Doomsday, superimposed with images of Diana and Clark being, I'll say, intimate, and to some degree, after their talk with the sword and you have much to learn. I think it was a great juxtaposition of the violence, and then, like I said, the intimacy between, well, I guess I can't say these characters, but this situation involving all of these characters. So, and so at the end of that sequence, that's when they get this notification about the storm, and that bringing us back to the beginning of the issue. And it ends with Doomsday's hands around Wonder Woman's throat. She's kind of bloodied, and that's the end of issue 1. I thought this was a great first issue for a comic like this. I think Charles Soule's story setup here is very strong. I can't wait to read more. Tony Daniels' art is as good as always. I haven't always liked Tony Daniels' stuff, but I liked it here. So I forgot to mention Bat on inks. Now, that's the thing. I've seen Tony Daniels' art look really, really good, depending on the inker. And this is okay. This is not worse than I've seen, but it's not the best I've seen. And I really should find out whose inks I prefer on Tony Daniels. Carlos Menguel on letters. Tomu More on colors. So, good. I think a good overall effort on this first issue. So, there you go. That's it. Those are some, like I said, some comics from the first couple weeks of October, with Super being the one issue from the final week of September, or the final 2 weeks of September, that I wanted to highlight and talk about.
If you'd like to leave feedback on this episode, please do so by emailing longboxreview@gmail.com. You can also leave voicemail at 208-953-1841. You can also leave comments at the blog for individual episodes at longboxreview.wordpress.com. Please rate and review the podcast on iTunes. You can also find Longbox Review on Stitcher. The Longbox Review podcast is a proud member of the Comics Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.